Hi, we're back with Romeo and Juliet. This is Mrs. Murphy, and we're picking up where we left off in the balcony scene. Juliet says to Romeo, "By whose direction foundest thou out this place?" Probably wondering, how the heck did you figure out which bedroom window was mine? And how did you find me? Romeo replies, "By love, who first did prompt me to inquire. He lent me counsel, and I lent him eyes. I am no pilot, yet wert thou as far as that vast shore washed with the farthest sea, I would adventure for such merchandise." So he really doesn't give her a straight answer. He just says that love is the one that helped him find this place, because it was love that prompted him to ask, and that if she were as far away a prize as anyone can imagine, he would have hunted her down and found out where she was. So she replies, "Thou knowest the mask of night is on my face, else would a maiden blush bepaint my cheek for that which thou hast heard me speak tonight. Fain would I dwell on form, fain deny what I have spoke, but farewell compliment." And what Juliet means here is that she should be blushing because she's probably said too much of her true feelings too soon. And she says that she would deny it if she were minding her manners, but so much for the way things are supposed to be, so much for compliments, so much for manners. She's just going to leave all that behind and say what she feels. So she continues, "Dost thou love me? I know thou wilt say aye, and I will take thee at thy word. Yet, if thou swearest, thou mayest prove false, as lovers' perjuries then say Job's laugh." So here she says, "I know that you're going to say yes, that you do love me, and that I will believe you. And yet, lovers often lie. And Jove, who is a Roman god, is said to laugh at the lovers when they lie." She continues then, "O gentle Romeo, if thou dost love, pronounce it faithfully. Or if thou thinkest I am too quickly won, I'll frown and be perverse and say thee nay. So thou wilt woo, but else not for the world." She is wondering if she has been too forward, if she should be playing hard to get, and she basically asks if that's what he wants, because if he wants her to play hard to get, she will, but otherwise she won't. And she goes on, "In truth, fair Montague, I am too fond, and therefore thou mayest think my behavior light. But trust me, gentlemen, I'll prove more true than those that have more cunning to be strange." Cunning is intelligence, but it's also that idea of planning ahead and being really kind of savvy and plotting. So she's not cunning. Juliet is not cunning. She's not trying to outsmart Romeo. She's not trying to play him at all. She is just saying how she feels. And so she says she's more true than any cunning girl could be. She says, "I should have been more strange," so more of a stranger, more distant. "I must confess, but that thou overheardest ere I was ware." So before she was even aware of it, he had already overheard her feelings, so there wasn't really much point in denying it. "My true love's passion, therefore pardon me, and not impute this yielding to light love, which the dark night hath so discovered." Romeo replies to her concerns and says, "Lady, by yonder blessed moon, I swear that tips with silver all these fruit tree tops." And Juliet says, "Oh, swear not by the moon, the inconstant moon that monthly changes in her circled orb, lest that thy love prove likewise variable." And if you think about it, the moon is inconstant because it occurs in phases, right? You see the new moon, you see the young moon, you see the crescent moon, you see the full moon. So the moon is not constant, and she doesn't want his love to prove inconstant like the moon. So he says, "Well, what shall I swear by?" And Juliet responds, "Do not swear at all, or If thou wilt swear by thy gracious self, which is the God of my idolatry, and I'll believe thee. Strong words from Juliet saying, swear by yourself because you are the God that is my idol. And Romeo replies, if my heart's dear love. Juliet then says, well, do not swear. She cuts him off. Do not swear then. So she can't really make up her mind. Although I joy in thee, I have no joy of this contract tonight. It is too rash, too unadvised, too sudden, too like the lightning which doth cease to be ere one can say it lightens. Sweet good night. So she's afraid that their love is like lightning, which is something else that comes from the sky, but maybe not as constant as the sun or even as the moon, because lightning is there for a flash and then it's gone. And so she's afraid that that's what this love is going to be like, that it's just this one night. And she says that she wants to say goodnight. And she said, this bud of love, thy summer's ripening breath may prove a beauteous flower when next we meet. Good night, as sweet repose and rest come to thy heart as that within my breast. And so she compares their love to a bud and a flower. So it is a bud right now, and she hopes to see it develop into a flower when next they meet. So this is another metaphor. So again, she said, come to thy, repose and rest, come to thy heart as that within my breast. And Romeo replies, oh, wilt thou leave me so unsatisfied? And Juliet says, what satisfaction canst thou have tonight? What exactly are you thinking of here, Romeo? What do you have in mind? And he says, the exchange of thy love's faithful vow for mine. And she replies, oh, that. I gave it thee before thou didst request it, and yet I would it were to give again. So she declared her love for him before he ever asked her to, before she even knew he was there. And she says, I would give it to you again if I could. He says, wouldst thou withdraw it? For what purpose, love? So would you take it back? You know, you said you love me. I want you to say it again. Would you take it back? For what purpose? And she says, just to give it to you again, to be frank and give it thee again. And yet I wish but for the thing I have. My bounty is as boundless as the sea. My love is deep. The more I give to thee, the more I have. For both are infinite. And love is one of those beautiful things that the more you give, the more you have. And so then at this point, we hear the nurse call from within. And Juliet reacts, and she changes the subject. I hear some noise within. Dear love, adieu. Anon, good nurse. And remember, anon means in a minute. So she says, anon, good nurse. Sweet Montague, be true. Stay but a little, I will come again. And she exits. So she says, stay here just for a short time. I'll be right back. Romeo says, in her absence, Juliet's not there, but he just kind of says this to the audience. Oh, blessed, blessed night, I am afeard. Being in night, all this is but a dream, too flattering, sweet to be substantial. So although he didn't admit it to Juliet, he has the same fear that she does, that this is just a dream, that it's not real. And Juliet comes back. She says 3 words, dear Romeo, and good night indeed. If that thy bent of love be honorable, thy purposed marriage, send me word tomorrow by one that I'll procure to come to thee, where and what time thou wilt perform the rite, and all my fortunes at thy foot I'll lay, and follow thee, my lord, throughout the world. So she says, if your intentions are honorable, if you want to get married, which would be the honorable thing to do, she says, to send word to her tomorrow by one that I'll procure to come to thee. So to procure means to acquire or to get. So Juliet is going to get someone to go to Romeo. And he is to send word through that person. Because Juliet, as a 13-year-old young woman, soon to be 14, typically would not be allowed to leave the house by herself. Girls were very, very closely guarded in this time period. And so she would have been chaperoned at all times. She would not be allowed to just go hang out in the city by herself. So she's going to find someone to go to Romeo. He will send word through that person about when and where to meet so that they can get married. And the nurse calls, "Madame," and Juliet says, "I come anon, but if thou meanest not well, I do beseech thee." And the nurse says, "Madame, by and by I come to cease thy suit, and leave me to my grief. Tomorrow will I send." So she's interrupted here, but what she says is, if you don't really mean this, just don't come back and let me be sad. But then she says, "Tomorrow I will send." Romeo replies, "So thrive my soul." Juliet says, "1,000 times good night," and then she exits to go talk to the nurse. Romeo replies, "1,000 times the worse to want thy light in her absence. Love goes toward love as schoolboys from their books, but love from love toward school with heavy looks." And that's a significant line there. If you think back to our discussion of education in the time period, just how miserable it was to be there from dawn till dusk, memorizing verb conjugations in Latin and Greek, that schoolboys would probably head to school with heavy looks on their faces. The teachers used corporal punishment, frequent paddlings, things like that. They weren't really happy to be going to school. They didn't have it like you do. So they certainly would express the look of Romeo leaving his love. That's how he feels. And Juliet re-enters. She says, "Hist, Romeo, hist! Oh, for a falconer's voice to lure this tassel gentle back again." And so Romeo doesn't hear her at first. She's wishing that she had the voice of a falconer, which is someone who trains falcons or birds for hunting. And she's comparing Romeo to a bird that she has to lure back again. She says, "Bondage is hoarse, and may not speak aloud, else I would tear the cave where Echo lies, and make her airy tongue more hoarse than mine with repetition of my Romeo's name." And Echo is, of course, a character in mythology. So we have another allusion to mythology here. And Echo was cursed and doomed to repeat whatever other people said, which of course is where we get the idea of an echo. And so Juliet compares herself to Echo going hoarse, just repeating Romeo's name again and again, trying to get him to come back because she's afraid he's left and she wanted to talk to him again. And he says, "It is my soul that calls upon my name. How silver sweet sound lovers' tongues by night, like softest music to attending ears." And she says, "Romeo." He says, "My dear." She says, "At what o'clock tomorrow shall I send to thee?" He replies, "At the hour of 9. I will not fail, 'tis 20 years till then. I have forgot why I did call thee back. Let me stand here till thou remember it. I shall forget to have thee stand there, remembering how I love thy company. And I'll still stay to have thee still forget, forgetting any other home but this." And this is the part of the scene that I like to compare to the, "No, you hang up first. No, you hang up first. No, but you hang up first. But I don't want to let you go. So you hang up first." This is that just love-struck puppy dog desire to be near each other, not wanting to let go. Juliet says, "'Tis almost morning." So time has passed pretty quickly. She says, "I would have thee gone, and yet no further than a wanton's bird, who lets it hop a little from her hand like a poor prisoner in its twisted guise, and with a silk thread plucks it back again, so loving, jealous of his liberty." So she compares Romeo to a bird on a string, and he says, "I would gladly be your bird. I would I were thy bird." Juliet says, "Sweet, so would I. yet I should kill thee with much cherishing. So she says, if you were my bird, I would probably smother you because I would be hugging on you so much. She says, good night, parting is such sweet sorrow, that I shall say good night till it be morrow. And Romeo, after Juliet's exit, delivers the last line of the scene. Sleep dwell upon thy eyes, peace in thy breast. Would I were sleep and peace, so sweet to rest. So he wishes he were resting on her eyes and in her breast. And he concludes, hence will I to my ghostly father sell, his help to crave and my dear hap to tell. So hap is happenings. Ghostly father refers to his spiritual father. My parents, I can remember them saying the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost, where we now say the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. So ghostly can mean spiritual, and his spiritual father is, of course, a priest. So he's going to where the priest lives to get his help and to tell him of everything that has happened. And so that is the end of Act 2, Scene 2. The balcony scene with all of its beautiful poetic language, celestial imagery, and just really intense, exaggerated, emotional romantic love. And I hope that you can see why it is probably the most famous scene in Shakespeare and still one of the most beloved. So thanks for listening, and I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye now.